Today's story is the man who came back from the lake and wasn't the same. 12 minutes. That's all it took for the lake to send back someone else in my brother's body. The first thing my brother said when we pulled him out of the water was the wrong thing. Not wrong like confused or wrong like traumatized. Wrong like something that had never met a human mouth before, was practicing how one works. I have been turning that sentence over in my head for 11 months now, trying to find an angle from which it makes sense. There isn't one. This happened in the summer of 2025 at a rental cabin on Lake Vermeer in northern Wisconsin. 3 siblings, a long weekend, and a kayak that capsized in water that should have been too shallow to matter. I want to be careful about how I tell this because I was there, I saw all of it, and I still don't know what I saw. What I can tell you is what happened. What I cannot tell you is why my brother came back from those 12 minutes in the water, a person who fit inside my brother's body, but did not, in any way I can name, feel like him. My brother Marcus is 34. He has a specific habit of tapping his collarbone when he thinks. 3 taps, always 3, a thing he has done since he was 9 years old. In all the months since the lake, I have never once seen him do it. And that is the smallest thing. That is so far from the largest thing. We arrived on a Friday afternoon in July. The cabin sat low against the tree line, smelling of pine resin and lake damp, the kind of smell that loosens something in your chest if you grew up anywhere near water. My sister Priya, who is the oldest of us, had rented it for the weekend. Her idea of a reset. She had just come through a divorce and wanted, she said, to be somewhere that felt like before. Marcus drove up separately and arrived 2 hours after us. He was already in a good mood when he stepped out of the car, which was normal for him. Marcus in those days was the kind of person who defaulted to lightness. He had dark eyes and a way of laughing that started in his nose first, and he wore the same rotation of 3 flannel shirts regardless of weather. He hugged Priya for a long time without saying anything. That was the last unambiguously Marcus thing I watched him do. We had dinner on the dock. We drank beer and talked about our parents, who had both been gone for years now, and the way that grief becomes, eventually, more like weather than emergency. Priya went to bed early. Marcus and I stayed out until after midnight, talking about nothing in particular, and at one point he said something that made me laugh so hard I had to grip the railing of the dock to stay upright. I cannot remember what he said. I have tried. That memory is just gone. Saturday morning was still and grey, the lake the colour of old pewter. Marcus wanted to take out the kayak before breakfast. I told him the water looked cold. He said cold was honest, and I thought that was a strange way to put it, but let it go. I was on the dock when it happened. Priya was inside. Marcus had paddled maybe 60 yards out when the kayak listed sideways, the way they do when your weight shifts wrong, and then he was in the water. I stood up. He went under. The lake swallowed him in a single gulp and went still. I was already running, already in the water up to my thighs, screaming his name when he surfaced. 12 minutes. That is what my watch said when I looked at it afterward. I know how long 12 minutes is, and I know it did not feel like 12 minutes, but the watch said 12. He came up about 40 feet from where he went down. Not swimming exactly, more like the water released him. He was face up, arms out, moving toward me with that flat, mechanical motion of someone who has forgotten how they normally move through the world. I pulled him to the shallows. He was breathing. His eyes were open. I was crying, I think, asking him if he could hear me, asking him to say something, and when he spoke, the words were right but the order they came out was wrong. Water is cold. I was under. You were watching, he said. I told myself it was shark. I told myself the brain scrambles after hypoxia. I helped him to shore and wrapped him in a towel and sat him on the dark steps, and Priya came out and we hovered over him and asked him questions, and he answered all of them. He knew his name. He knew our names. He knew the year, the place, the president. He smiled when we expressed relief. The smile was the first thing I could not explain. It landed a half-second too late, like a translation arriving after the conversation had moved on. We wanted to drive him to a hospital. He refused. Calmly, pleasantly, the way you refuse a second dessert. He said he felt fine. He said his chest was clear. He did 50 push-ups on the dock to prove it, and we watched him do them, and there was nothing wrong with the push-ups, and somehow that made it worse. By Saturday evening, Priya had convinced herself he was okay. She is a practical person, Priya, the kind who needs an explanation to be frightened, and the explanation she had chosen was shock and adrenaline and the particular weirdness of almost drowning. She cooked pasta. We ate together. Marcus ate his entire portion, and then ate most of mine when I said I wasn't hungry. You should eat, he said, and looked at me without blinking. I said I wasn't feeling well. You should eat anyway, he said. The body needs maintenance. The body needs maintenance. I wrote that down in my notes app that night. I don't know why, it felt like something I needed a record of. I lay awake until 3 a.m. listening to the cabin. At some point I heard Marcus get up. I heard him walk down the hallway and out the back door. I heard him walk to the dark. I did not hear him come back inside. In the morning, he was in his bed, asleep when I checked. The back of his shirt was damp. We left Sunday afternoon. Priya hugged him in the driveway and told him to call more. He said he would. He hugged her correctly, the right amount of pressure, the right duration, but he was watching me over her shoulder while he did it, and the expression on his face was the expression of someone solving a problem, not someone saying goodbye to their sister. I called him the following Thursday. He answered on the first ring. I was thinking about you, he said, not how I was expecting him to open a call. Not hello. I asked him how he was feeling. He said he felt clear. I asked what that meant and there was a pause, the kind that doesn't feel like thinking, and then he said, better than before. More present. I asked if he had seen a doctor. He said there was no reason to. I asked if he had been sleeping. He said he didn't need as much sleep as he used to. I asked when that changed. After the lake, he said. The lake clarified things. I didn't know what to say to that. Neither did he, apparently. We said goodbye and he said, before I hung up you should come visit. There are things I want to show you. I have not gone to visit. I don't think I'm going to. Priya thinks I am making something out of nothing. She thinks grief does strange things to how we see the people we love, and that Marcus's near drowning scared me more than it scared him, and that my brain is hunting for strangeness as a way of processing it. She might be right. She usually is, about practical things, but Marcus called me 6 weeks ago on a Wednesday night, and the first thing he said before I could say hello was, "Do you remember what I said when you pulled me out of the water?" I said I remembered. He said, "What did it sound like to you?" I told him, the wrong order, the flat tone, the half-second delay on the smile. There was a very long pause on the line. Then he said quietly, "That's interesting. I don't remember any of those 12 minutes, but I remember the water, and the water remembers me." And he hung up. I don't know what was in that lake. I don't know what 12 minutes in cold, still, grey water does to a person, or whether it does anything at all, and I am simply watching my brother from an angle of fear that distorts him. I want that to be true. I want the explanation to be grief and adrenaline, and a brain that needed something to be wrong. But Marcus had a habit. 3 taps on the collarbone, 34 years old, every time he was thinking hard, and the person who answers his phone and says his name and hugs our sister the right way has never once done it. So here is what I keep asking myself, and what I'm asking you. If someone comes back from somewhere they shouldn't have been able to come back from, and they come back mostly right, what does mostly right mean? What does it mean for the part that didn't come back? If this story made you uneasy, that means it did its job. Subscribe to Cursed Curious, and I'll be back next week with another one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.